you'd be better using a bar of soap as a brake pad. Hey guys, it's Lewis from Recycle Bicycle Sales here. Welcome back to the channel. If you follow us on social media, you might have seen us put up a couple of posts recently asking for some Q&A questions because we wanted to do a little video where we can answer some of your questions. So we've gone through all the comment section and we've sort of collated our favorite questions that we got through there. Let's dive into it.
All right, first question, Lewis. Should I buy a gravel bike or a road bike?
Okay, great question, whoever sent that one in. Should I buy a gravel bike or a road bike? Well, I think that's a difficult question to answer, I'm gonna be honest. I think I'm gonna say it sort of depends on where you live. If you live in perhaps the middle of the city and it's just suburbia all around you and there's really no dirt tracks, maybe a road bike might be a little bit more sort of normal, it might kind of make sense. But then a gravel bike, as you might have seen in a video that we put up recently, gravel bikes might be the future of cycling. In that video, one of the things that we spoke about was how a lot of people are buying gravel bikes and then buying a second wheel set. So it kind of feels like they've got two different bikes. They've got their off-road wheel set and their on-road wheel set. So should I buy a road bike or a gravel bike? If I had to pick one, a gravel bike is probably a little bit more versatile. So I'd say a gravel bike. Another little note that I might just add about this gravel bike versus road bike is I'd say, what type of bikes do you already have? If you already have a mountain bike, a gravel bike is very, well, not super similar, but it's down that same sort of side of things. So you might appreciate a road bike because it's such a different experience to a mountain bike.
Next question, Lewis. How do I locate and fix creaks on my bike?
Oh, that's a tough question. As a bike mechanic, I think my least favorite job that comes in here is noise chase. And I'm going to politely say it's difficult to answer just with some words. If you can send in a video, I might be able to give you a little bit more of I suppose, an accurate answer. However, I'm gonna say, when we're looking at the bike, there's sort of a few main noises that the bike can make, a few main sort of creaking areas that I think you should definitely look at before taking it into your local bike shop. They could be something as simple as making sure that the skewers are as tight as they can be, as tight as they need to be, both front and rear, making sure that the pedals are tight, bolts as a whole are nice and tight, or even a really common one that I see is the saddle rails being a little bit too loose. As your body weight is bouncing on the saddle, it can make like a creaking or a cracking noise. So one way that you could check if it's that is go for a pedal around the car park, try sitting down, try standing up. Is it making the noise both times or is it only making the noise when you're sitting down? That could be a pretty clear indicator that it's the saddle. It could even be something to do with the bottom bracket and the pedals. I'm quickly gonna stand up and just show you one way that you can test that as well. If you've got the bike like this, I've got it pointing straight at the camera here. And if I put one of the pedals right down at the floor, and if I try and like bend the bike, I know this might look a little bit scary, but I'm trying to literally flex the bike. If you can hear it creaking there, then it could be something to do with the bottom bracket. We can check both sides as well. And that one doesn't really make any noise, so I know that it's not the bottom bracket on that bike. Another one that you can do is if you grab the rear wheel and try and flex it from side to side, does it have much movement there and is that making much noise? If it is, it means it might be something to do with either the sort of the whole axle area of the bike, or it might even be like a little creaking noise in the frame. If it's literally in the frame, it could even be that it's a crack. And the other most common one, for long-time viewers who have been watching us for a while, they already know what I'm about to say because I think it's really important, is the headset. The two bearings that we have here and just the relationship that all the different bolts have with each other here. If the headset is loose, that can cause a creaking noise and it might even sound like it's coming from the back end because it's vibrating that noise all the way through the frame as well. So making sure that your headset is nice and tight. If you don't know how to tighten your headset, we've got a video a little bit further back on our channel where we go really deep into how to tighten your headset. I strongly recommend checking out that video.
All right, next question, Lewis. What should I bring on my bike ride?
Great question. I guess there's a lot of different things you can bring on your bike ride. And since I knew this question was coming, I've actually got a couple of little bits ready for me down here. The first thing is nutrition, making sure that you've got water and food for however long your bike ride's gonna be. Water is so important, you absolutely need to have it, and food is what's gonna help keep you going so you don't get too tired before you come home. The second thing I think you need is your mobile phone. I say that not only so that you can phone for help if something's going wrong or you need to get picked up or whatever the story is, maybe you've had a crash and you need some help, that's really helpful. But as well as that, it has a GPS built into it as well. So if you needed to find your way to get home because you've done a route that you've never done before, that's where a phone can really help. And the third thing is a saddlebag with a repair kit in it. Saddlebag because it can be mounted onto the bottom of the saddle here, so you can forget it's there until the day that you need it. This saddlebag has a spare tube, some things to pump up the new tube, and then it even has a toolkit built into it as well. They're sort of the three main things that I think you need when you're going on a bike ride.
Lewis, my gears are slipping. What should I do?
Ooh, great question. Okay, what should you do when your gears are slipping? I think the first thing that you should do that you can check at home is test some of the other gears. Is it slipping in one particular gear, or is it being a little bit average in all of the gears? Do you think that it's because it needs to have a gear tune or because a part's worn out? What I would do to be able to find out if it needs to go one way or the other is if I'm riding around and I click to change gear, is it going tick, 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 click, and then jumping into gear? Or is it just as I'm pedaling under load, it's skipping on me and it's not letting me put the power down? Is it that or is it that? If it's skipping on you and it's literally not letting you put the power down, that's a pretty clear indicator that you might have a worn out component on your drivetrain, whether it's chain or cassette or chain rings. Whereas if you're pedaling along and you change gear and it's slow to actually jump across to that gear, that might mean that you need to do a gear tune. If you think it might be the worn out scenario, you could go past your local bike shop and hopefully they have a little tool that can measure how much the chain is worn. This will answer your question.
Lewis, what do I look out for when I'm buying a used bicycle?
Great question. We are the used bicycle specialists, I suppose. I would say having a look over the bike and making sure that you can't find any cracks throughout the frame. There's a couple of main spots that I'd really point out that I think are quite important. One, I would say, is the top tube of the bike, where the handlebars swing around and might impact the top tube. That's probably the first one. That's a pretty clear indicator that the bike's been crashed. You could even look at perhaps the rear derailleur and the shift lever and seeing if the bike's crashed and it's scratched down the side of it. Looking if components seem to look like they're worn out. You can maybe run your finger over the back tire or the front tire. Does it feel flat on the top? That means that the rear tire or the front tire might be starting to get worn out. With the chain, is it completely black and dirty and greasy? That would sort of tell me that the person that's selling that bike doesn't really care about their bike that much. Doesn't mean it's worn out, it just kind of means that they don't really care about it. And if they don't care about keeping their bike clean, how's the rest of the bike? That might really bring out a little red flag for me. Also, it's not a bad idea to ask for some proof of purchase. Is the person that you're buying the bike from actually the owner of the bike, or have they stolen the bike?
Should I buy a bike with rim brakes or disc brakes?
Oh, that is such a great question, and I could talk on this topic for hours, and I think I could make really good arguments both ways. And for that reason, I wouldn't say that one is better than the other. I think you'll be really happy with both options. However, let me just quickly say why one would be better than the other. I think disc brakes, the braking is a bit more powerful and they work just as well in the wet as they do in the dry, whereas rim brakes are not as good in the wet at all, unfortunately, especially if you have carbon wheels. You'd be better using a bar of soap as a brake pad. It's terrifying in the pouring rain. So braking performance will probably be one thing. But then when we're talking about what's good about rim brakes, I would say they're usually quite a bit more lightweight and so much more affordable. They're probably the two main reasons that I would say you should look at rim brakes. And
final question, Lewis, how can I get a mustache like yours?
That's such an excellent question. The short answer is time, I suppose. I've been growing this for a little while. Funny story why I actually started growing this mustache, a little side quest here, is when I was looking at moving into a shop here, a lot of the real estate agents that I was talking to thought that I was a kid. I'm like, I'm not a kid, I can grow facial hair. So I started growing whatever facial hair that my young body could, and this is what it came up with. So how do you grow a mustache like this? You just let it happen and stop shaving the mustache, I suppose, ever. That's my answer. Thanks for watching, everybody. I know it probably seems a little bit silly, but I really did enjoy doing this Q&A video. I love seeing all the questions that you guys are sending in, whether they're on Messenger or comments down in the bottom of this YouTube video. I love reading through all of them. So please send more down the bottom and in the Messenger as well. Otherwise, I'm gonna say, we'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.